Well, if you're a member of the SEC, another day is yet another opportunity for you to try to delay the production of the Bill Hinman emails and all the conversations around thereof. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what the SEC is now doing to once again delay trying to get away with not publishing these documents and give them over to Ripple, even though the judges in this case have told them to multiple times. So I'm going to tell you what they did, how much time they might get in order to do that, and why the judge that actually has to make a decision on this, well, it might be another one-word answer. Also, the Bitcoin market is looking very interesting right now, and according to one metric, it's on the verge of a breakout. But from what I can tell right now, it is holding strong at about 23,000, and there's some other metrics that say, well, hold on just yet. So I'm going to go over what Bitcoin is doing, what Ethereum and XRP are doing, and what they're most likely going to do for this weekend. And if you've been watching other news in the crypto space, you know that Three Arrows Capital, which is a hedge fund, a cryptocurrency hedge fund that recently went belly up about 5 weeks ago, their founders were basically in hiding on the run because of death threats. Well, they recently came out of hiding and gave an interview to Bloomberg. Now, they're not discussing exactly where their whereabouts is, but I'm going to tell you what they said about what happened, what caused all of the unraveling, and how this multi-billion-dollar hedge fund actually lost. Hey everyone, my name is Randy. Welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel, we're covering Ripple versus the SEC, as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button and join the Late Night Grind community. Also, if you do me a favor, I'd appreciate it if you do a couple things. Smash the thumbs up button, watch this video all the way to the end, and also check out my Patreon. There's a link in the description below if you're interested in making some gains on some altcoins. Oh, also one more thing, don't forget to hit that bell notification icon. That way YouTube will notify you when I release a new video. And so if you do all those things, I greatly appreciate it. All right, guys. Let's jump into it. One of the more interesting stories in the cryptocurrency world, in the finance world, has been the dramatic decline of some cryptocurrencies, including the collapse of the Terra Luna system, losing approximately $40 billion. But right along with it, hedge funds, specifically crypto hedge funds, were doing particularly bad. In fact, Three Arrows Capital is making news all over the place because approximately 5 weeks ago, it went belly up. So the founders, which is Suju and Daniel Hayes, which are actually high school friends, and they decided at one point to create this hedge fund. Well, in this hedge fund, they took literally billions of dollars, put it into crypto, and it all unraveled. At one point, they were doing extremely well. Now, according to some reports, they've actually been in hiding because of credible death threats to them, which is a shame. But nonetheless, that is happening, and so you can't exactly fault them for being on the run if you or your family are receiving death threats for things like this. Now, the interview that Bloomberg gave said their ultimate destination is Dubai, which that is because Dubai seems to be becoming one of the global cryptocurrency hubs. So it's no doubt that something like this that they would actually migrate to somewhere like that. But nonetheless, they came out and they were actually answering a few of Bloomberg's questions. They kind of stayed away from what their losses actually caused some of the rest of the market, some other secondary and tertiary companies that were hurt by essentially their mismanagement. But nonetheless, they kind of explained what happened and what caused the unraveling. And like several others, it all started with the Terra Luna collapse. When that collapsed, they lost approximately $600 million. And of course, and they said, looking back on it, they put far too much faith in Do Kwon, who was actually the founder of Terra Luna. But they said they did meet him, and he seemed like he's done a lot of good things in the past, and he's doing a lot of good things now. So why not? Well, now you know why not. So nonetheless, they said they put way too much faith in Do Kwon, in that ecosystem, and that really started the unwinding of everything else. So of course, the rest of the market started some cascading liquidations. The price of Bitcoin came down dramatically, if you remember that week. There was a chain of all the other sell-offs and liquidations, but on top of that, they actually had an arbitrage with the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, in which Grayscale actually had a premium, and then it flipped to a discount. And once that happened, they were completely underwater with their Bitcoin holdings on the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. That was basically attempting to hold everything together, and once that flipped to a discount, and everything seemed to flip from there, and of course, insolvency followed. And according to some of the reports and some of the filings that have come out since the collapse, apparently they had received over $2.3 billion from Genesis Trading. They also received uncollateralized loans from BlockFi, Voyager Digital, and Celsius. Now, if you've been watching the news recently, Voyager Digital and Celsius have both filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So nonetheless, billions of dollars were lost. And in my opinion, looking at stories like this isn't exactly the first, but it's not going to be the last. And it is one of those things that makes United States Congress even more leery about not regulating certain things and kind of leaving them go, because things like this always hurt investors, and it just gives Washington another bullet in the chamber as to how and why to lock things down. And so according to their answers, this whole Three Arrows capital collapse can be summed up in one word: greed. They had highly leveraged positions with uncollateralized loans, and according to them, they basically believed that the crypto world was in a crypto super cycle, and no matter how far the price would continue to fall, they thought anytime now it's going to continue up, and Bitcoin's going to go into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, they're not the only ones who believe that, but nonetheless, they were taking uncollateralized loans, putting it on high leverage trade to get the maximum exposure, because they fully thought that that was going to happen. And so now that that's kind of shaking out, Bitcoin's price, well, it was hurt at the time, and it's been kind of consolidating, and even though it's been on somewhat of an upward trend the last couple of weeks, it popped its head above 24,000 right now. I want to look at the price and what it's going to do this weekend, because as of some of the indicators that I was looking at, specifically momentum indicators, the RSI and the money flow are all pointing to basically a range trade for Bitcoin, meaning it's probably going to stay somewhere between 22 to 24,000 over the next couple of days. Now, typically there is a Sunday pump right before a Monday dump, but that doesn't always happen, so just beware. And looking at some others, it looks like Ethereum, who had just touched $1,600 after going on a massive rally and essentially leading the rest of the crypto space, it bumped up against a major trendline resistance, and it looks like it pulled back. It was about $1,500 when I was taking these notes, and it looks like it's facing the same indicators as Bitcoin is, meaning there's a lot of bearish divergences that have been happening for the past week or two, and so when it hit this resistance, it looked like it was going to pull back, and that's what it looks like it's going to do. So in my opinion, I think Ethereum is going to be pulling back for several days in a row before any kind of reversal, so we'll see what happens with that. Also, XRP and most of the altcoins probably going to stay pretty quiet for the weekend. I'd see XRP in a range trade of about 34 to 37 cents for the weekend, nothing crazy. Okay, so now let's talk about what the SEC has been doing for a long time, and that is trying to keep these Hinman emails, the Bill Hinman emails, private. They don't want to turn them over to Ripple. They don't want the public to see them, that's for sure. And the more they do this, the more concerned everybody else gets about the SEC's plans for the rest of the cryptocurrency world. As information, tiny little pieces of information are leaked out about who has what stance, who said what and when and why. It's not necessarily because they're being paid off by backdoor deals. There is a new conspiracy theory that was actually floated out there by somebody known as Bill, who's actually one of the attorneys on Twitter that follows this case, along with James Filan, Jeremy Hogan, John Deaton, and a few others. This one was a little more conspiratorial, because what they're doing in the SEC versus the Coinbase insider trading is basically saying, listen, these guys did some insider trading, but what they did was they traded with what they called crypto digital securities. They are naming the altcoins that these guys actually invested into were securities. They're already claiming that. That's interesting. There was actually 9 of them. There was actually 9 of these altcoins that they got caught dealing with. Now, here's the thing. All 9 of those projects are all based on the Ethereum blockchain. So that's a head scratcher as well. So what Bill said is it almost looks like the SEC gave Ethereum a free pass in order to catch and target all of the different projects that are launching on Ethereum, because in their view, those are securities. So we're gonna have to see how this shakes out. That's kind of a whole nother rabbit hole, but I just wanted to put that out there for you. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Okay, so now back to the SEC and what they filed with the judge. Now this is somewhat procedural. Some call this basically minor. I don't know how minor this is. So the SEC once again was told to turn over these documents, that they can't hide them any longer, and so what they're doing is they're objecting to it. They're appealing to Judge Torres. Judge Knepper multiple times has ruled in Ripple's favor that the SEC needs to turn these over. They now have a certain amount of time, I believe it was 14 days from last week, to file their objection with Judge Torres. Well, they sent her a letter and they said, listen, we want to do something that's a little bit out of the norm. We want to file a 30-page opening brief and then a 10-page reply brief, which is significantly larger than what these objections and what these appeals are typically allowed to do. So they asked a letter asking permission from the courts to do this. So we're going to see basically two rulings. Number one, if they're allowed to do this, and number two, once they actually file the appeal, that's going to be the big decision that you are going to want to follow. So what they're trying to do is prepare this massive objection to Judge Torres. Now, so far in this case, Judge Torres has favored Ripple heavily because what the SEC is typically asking is, quite honest, to be out of bounds. I think Judge Torres sees the hypocrisy of what they're doing, and she typically responds with one-word answers. Denied. So, in my view, I really can't wait to make another thumbnail for YouTube with the word denied across it. And that might come as early as next week, but we're going to have to see because the SEC has, of course, asked permission to put this huge appeal case together. Now, Ripple did reply, and, of course, they objected. So if you want to follow along and see what all these decisions are going to come to, make sure you're a member of the Late Night Grind community. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell notification icon. You can also follow me on Twitter. All the links are always in the description below. And a big thank you for watching this video all the way to the end, for smashing that thumbs up button. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.